So now we are coming to our ninth session. It's an overview of the food and beverage market in Egypt. It will be represented by our speaker is Mr. Ashraf. He's Managing Director, Mashreq for Business Development and Chairman, Egypt Chamber of Food Industry. And I would like to welcome him to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. And I'd like to thank the World Trade Center and the Food Tech Summit and the Gulf Food Manufacturing for the invitation. I can see that timing is very strict, so I'll try to abide by that. I'm here just to give you a glimpse of Egypt. What are we doing in F&B in Egypt? So why Egypt? A bit of the economic outlook, and then we'll be talking to you about the overview of the market, the future plans, and our vision. Simply, why Egypt? We are very modest here. We believe we have the perfect mix. Our geographic location is known, but we are using it for our benefit in terms of economic. We have the second largest bilateral agreement signed in the whole world. And we have investment agreements with most of the countries of the world as well. So Egypt is not just the gate to the east, to the west, it's also the gate of emerging markets to the developed markets and vice versa. In terms of connectivity, we're improving. In terms of logistics, we have the new Suez Canal, we have new ports coming in place, logistic centers, and that is coupled with the most important factor for me, and the one that I like most, is the growth. I think we're all in business and we all appreciate growth, and it's growth in a very resilient market. If we talk about stability, the Egyptian market has gone through two revolutions, Arab Spring, many stages during the last 8 to 10 years, and it was always resilient. Factories were operating despite that people were in the street protecting their homes. Factory label owners, everyone was there producing and distributing. And we were rewarded. It was one of the best years. Whenever problems were there, we still had very good years. And we continue to grow quite well. The CAGR in the last overall food, last 4 to 5 years, has been at 15%. Despite all challenges that we've been seeing, we have 100 million consumers. I know we have friends from India here, but still, for the Middle East, we're 100. Happy Diwali, by the way. So we have 100 million consumers, and we're growing. We're growing 1 million a year. We have a lot of my Danish friends here. So every 5 years, 4 to 5 years, we have one Denmark coming into Egypt, and you can all take it into your respective countries. So we are growing with a very young population. So young population, developing, adapting to new trends in food, and growing. Stability is very important. Today, Egypt has been politically, economically stable, and we're taking the stability a step further by building our infrastructure. We have a president that's very determined on the infrastructure, and we have $15 billion that's being put in place. We have 5,000 kilometers of roads that are being deployed, and more than half of the majority has been finished. 5 new ports. We have lots of new energy projects. We have renewable energy, plus the largest power generation plant by Siemens in the whole world is now in Egypt. We had problems of electricity a few years back. By 2011, today we're exporting electricity. We have gas that's coming in. It will be the hub for the whole Mediterranean. Gas will be through Egypt, with lots of investments coming here. So infrastructure is being put in place to really capture and build on that. Trade agreements, we said about the logistics, the location. From Egypt, I mentioned we're the second largest signatory of trade agreements. Arab Free Trade Agreement is key with all the Arab countries. This is the most important agreement we have. We have the COMESA, through which you can cover Africa. We have agreements with the United States and the EU. EU is our biggest trade partner, and we have a very important agreement with the European Union. We have Agadir to cover North Africa, and we have the QIZ, through which you can access the United States at preferential rates. So is the free trade agreement with Turkey and the Mercosur. You want to capture Latin America? Still, we do have agreements to cover up to Latin America. So second largest signatory of trade agreements from Egypt through this location, you can access the whole world. Economic outlook, 100 million. The per capita consumption is around 3,600, still very small, only 1% of the GDP, PPP of the whole world. But when you look, compare at the Middle East, when it looks at market size, infrastructure, labor, health, education, which is starting in, and markets efficiency, and the financial market, we're quite competitive. Overall growth is still not there, it's at 5%. We've seen 7, 8 before, and we're targeting for that. Inflation went up to 30% in certain stages, at 14% now. FDI is a challenge at 7 to 8 million, which we need to work on. But we're very happy that we have a reserve of 43 million, which is at least stabilizing the currency for the development. What's key for us is tourism, FDI, and export to be able to build on that. Global competitiveness, not the best, but improving. So Egypt has implemented an economic reform program, very aggressive one, very optimistic one, in end of 2016. We floated the currency, it almost doubled in price, and at the same time, we're removing subsidy from petrol, from gas, from electricity, and investing it into health and education. It's very difficult times for the Egyptian consumers. Affordability is, yes, going down, but we're growing back, and we've seen very good growth during 2018 compared to the drop 17 due to being on the right footstep and on the right base for growth. The IMF sees a broad base, is talking about a broad-based growth across all sectors. The World Bank is very happy to see the deficit in our budget going down, both being very positive about the development in Egypt. And you can see that our economic reform in action led to Standard & Poor's taking us from a B- to B+, and from Moody's taking us from stable to positive. So it's working, and you all feel it positively, and so does the world. We look about the F&B market. We talked about the comprehensive improvement that's happening here, the export, enhancing quality of labor market, if you want to be in Egypt, from laborers, just starting with fresh laborers up to CEOs, executive, work class, you have them all. Technicians, you have them all. You have access to all levels of human resources, so we're very proud of our human capital. We feel it is a key strength that we have. Regulatory reform is coming in place. We had 17 entities regulating the food and beverage business, and that has been unified into one entity, the National Food and Safety Authority. Still should be effective in 3 years, let's say, but still taking very positive steps. And we have also an Investment Act, a Bankruptcy Act, and as well as a new licensing act that helps people go through the bureaucracy to get their factory licenses in food and other things. So we're developing on that. FDI is a challenge, but overall, I couldn't fit in everyone. Nestle just announced a $52 million investment. Unilever, PepsiCo, Cargill, Coca-Cola are investing. Mondelez is moving its regional hub production to Egypt. Mars is moving to Egypt for regional procurement and production. We have Kellogg who went in, Dr. Otker. Today I just heard about Marai acquiring one of the food dairy companies in Egypt. They're in their due diligence stage. So every day, every month, every week, this is a very attractive market, and everyone who's seriously in the F&B business has to be in Egypt or he won't be competitive. We are positively, as a sector, impacting 5 million Egyptians. Our investment is around 25 billion, but we have an informal sector that's another 25. So overall, it's about 50 billion of investments in. The government is working on how to put this, let's say, informal sector into the formal sector, but they're quite equipped, very modern equipments, but still, it's how to get them into the system. We're around 5% of the GDP in Egypt. with a 15% CAGR, directly and indirectly employing 1 million people, and with an average family of 5, we're impacting positively 5 million people, and that is growing, and we'd like you to be part of this positive impact. We expect around 16.6% CAGR in the coming years by 2021 in Egypt. So where the future is, we talked about the 16.6 CAGR that's coming. We talked about, we have a trend of local demand for local products and local brand, because we had the devaluation or the floating of the currency, which affected the purchasing power of the Egyptians, so they started to look at local alternatives, and we've seen the local brands developing and improving their quality because they found demand. So due to the disruption that happened, people are open to change and explore and change their brands and habits as well. We have the National Food Safety Authority, which I mentioned, as well as a new decree that allows you to get your license for your food and beverage factory in 48 hours. So 48 hours, you get your license, and that applies to 80% of the industries, including all food and beverage. We have a new investment act. We have SMEs benefits for all projects that are there. You get, if you're small, which is up to 50 million turnover, you get 1/4 of the bank interest. So you get 75% discount on your bank interest. If you're in manufacturing, working capital, you get 50% discount on your bank interest if you're up to 200 million. And you get 7% on your capex, up to 200 million pounds. So 50% of your interest rate is cut. We see around 40%, 30 to 40% growth in the fruits, beverages, and juices coming in Egypt within the coming years as well. When you look at export, we had exports of around, we'll be closing above $2 billion. Most of them are connected to agriculture. Preserved, dried vegetables, fruits, frozen, essential oils, prepared and preserved fruits and vegetables, and processed cheese. Where are we globally in terms of ranking? We're the second largest exporter of preserved olive oil in the whole world. We are the third supplier and exporter of dried onions in the whole world. We are the 7th in frozen strawberries. We're the 9th in carbonated soft drinks concentrates, with all the big ones and Coke and exporting carbonated concentrates from Egypt. Dried dates, we're the 9th, and 9th in frozen vegetables. That excludes processed cheese, where we are on the top 5 as well, with all the big players in processed cheese, Bell, Lactalis, Bongrain, or Venetia, and Kraft, even either producing locally or procuring through local production in Egypt. Looking at the future, CAGR, 18 to 16% we see in vegetables, poultry, meat, cereals, and dairy. Just a glimpse of where the opportunities are. Future, we have a strategy. We're working on building on our R&D, new agreements, branding Egypt as the food destination, as well as value-added products, innovation, all of that capitalizing on the political stability that's there. Just a glimpse of our strategy. Few trends that we have. We have a snacking business that's growing exponentially in Egypt. So basically, people are spending more time at the office, and we don't have the habit of going in for a lunch break. People just eat something on the go. And here you have all types of snacks that are there that would give nice taste and stomach fill, have been growing, from croissants, bakeries, to snacks, all types are growing exponentially. We have a big market of local, informal, unbranded, loose type of milk, of cheeses, and many products. So on dairy, we have a huge transformation into basically the packed and branded sector. We have the frozen, semi-prepared food is also on the rise, with people spending more time and more working women there in place. Digital transformation as well as food safety are two other things that are happening at the back of this growth that we need to be aware of and has got opportunities. As well, with the National Food Safety Authority with 50% of the business coming from informal sector, many of them are being encouraged through loans and support from the government to go into the formal sector. Many of them will be out, where the formal sector will be even doubling. So here we're talking about CAGR of the total business. Within that business, the formal organized sector that's applying the global standards in food and safety will be even growing exponentially. So our vision, Egypt has got a vision by 2030 to become one of the top 20 economies in the world. It's not easy, but through a lot of hard work, a lot of infrastructure development, legislative reform, and support to the private sector, we'll be able to reach there. And to conclude, in Egypt, it's not heaven on earth. You've got bureaucracy, you've got challenges, you've got a lot of development that's taking place, yet it's growing, it's profitable, and those who are there love it and are there to stay. And the good thing is, yes, we have bureaucracy, we have challenges, that's improving. So that's in summary, and hope to see you all in Egypt, and we welcome from trade to manufacturers, investors, suppliers of machinery, technology, know-how, consultants. We welcome everyone to join us in this trip. Thank you all.